Hey, I'm Ben, and I'm an agent in Boise, Idaho, and I've been doing a lot of research into land recently, into buying land, because I know a lot of people out there want to buy land, and I'm also interested in purchasing land at some point. Haven't done it yet, but I know that at some point myself, my family, get some land, do some sustainable farming. I think that'd be absolutely fantastic. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm gonna let you in on everything that I find really important as an agent. Make sure, whether you're working with me or you're working with another agent, make sure you're watching out for these top things when you're purchasing land in Boise and Idaho and Parma and Wilder, wherever you are purchasing land. So water sources. In Idaho, Idaho considers all water flowing in their natural state to be public water. So all water in springs, lakes, rivers is public water. And it allows private users to use that water as they want. If you own land next to the Boise River, you could divert water and divert it to your land. You just need to have land next to, or have enough land to be able to go to where you want to go, or have enough land to have the water go where you need it to go. Usually properties in Idaho come with either water rights or water shares. When you're allotted water shares, you're allotted a certain amount of water, and you can always buy more water shares, right? If you have water shares, it's gonna be for some sort of canal that is man-made and it's not natural, because we talked about earlier that anything that's naturally made, like a river, lake, a stream, is not owned by Idaho, right? So anything created by man, if someone bought a bunch of land, like in the late 1800s when William B. Morris and Reidenbach created the Reidenbach and Morris Canal in the bench, they bought out land, created the canal, and now you have to have water shares or water rights or be at the end of the canal to be able to use that water effectively. There are a lot of different ways on the bench that you can get water. For example, on the property that I live on, we are at the end of the irrigation, so we basically just get the rest of the water. So we don't really have a guarantee of how much water that we're gonna have, but we usually just have water fill into a pond, and then we can use that water freely. But it's not something that we pay for necessarily. We don't have water rights, we don't have water shares. It's at the end of the irrigation, so this just gets water, but we don't have any access to control that. Let's continue to talk about water shares. If an irrigation company owns 1,000 acre-feet of water rights, and you are 1 out of 1,000 people that have shares in those water rights, you would own 1 acre-foot of water per year. Let's talk more about water rights. So because rivers, lakes, streams, all the natural living water in Idaho is not owned by Idaho, it's owned by no one. If you appropriate, if you use that water, if you create a canal, a ditch, something to use that water for crops, irrigation, whatever, it's similar to having land rights once it's completely finished. Now this can get really complicated really fast because Idaho is a farming state, and it is also a handshake agreement state where a lot of the agreements are just made by handshakes. So I will leave the specifics of water rights up to lawyers. So if there's anything in real estate, if you're ever having a real estate transaction where you're like, this water right thing is confusing and no one around you knows what's going on, that's a lawyer type situation for sure. And I was talking about earlier that if someone doesn't use their water rights, then other people next in line can't use it. And there's also a rental pool of water shares that you can purchase if you want more water. If you're buying a piece of land that already has some sort of farm on it and it doesn't have any building, if you want to buy that land, make sure that you can actually add a well, make sure you can actually add septic. And usually that's done by getting a Perc Test in a specific area that you may want to build. And a Perc Test determines the soil water absorption rate. So how well the soil can absorb water, and that'll be really critical to know if there's not a building on that land already, if you actually can build something on that land. Calculating how much to pay for a piece of land is difficult, and it is mostly determined on your goals and what you think you want to do with that piece of land, because it's an emotional decision even buying a piece of land. Just as buying a house is an emotional decision, you want to make sure that you're making that decision not only financially, but making sure that you want to make that decision. So we talked a lot about water rights because Idaho is, a big farming state. That's how Idaho became popular, right? Potatoes, everyone knows Idaho for potatoes. We have the big potato drop every single year, and Boise, Nampa, Meridian are sort of getting out of that. So a lot of people are trying to develop rules and regulations for Idaho specifically because Idaho was a handshake state. farmers did things based on handshakes because contracts weren't really necessary if you trusted the person next to you. So we did talk a lot about water rights. If you have any questions regarding buying land, make sure to contact me, and my contact information is in the description below. And I will see you in the next video tomorrow.